I'm Jack Kennedy, and we're here to bring you the latest in MMA.
Hey everybody, my name's Hunter Boss, and what the boss says goes.
What is up everyone, my name is Keelan McNamara, and you already know what time it is.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island Podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Hunter Boss, and today we have a very, very special guest, and Eric Nicksick of Extreme Couture MMA. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Well, we have a great podcast lined up, lots to talk about. First off, we're going to get a couple questions going. Thank you so much for joining us. First one we wanted to ask, right, was just how have you evolved to become one of the best coaches in MMA, especially in recent years?
You know, I just think it's just time in the game and stepping outside your comfort zone, asking questions. You know, a lot of times I think guys get so worried about like being vulnerable as a coach. Like I have no problem picking up the phone and calling Henry Hooft or calling Brandon Gibson and, you know, James Krause, Tyson Chartier. There's guys that like I'm not afraid to go talk to and ask how they're doing things, because it's really only me just trying to grow and become better and see what other guys are doing. So I think when you kind of get stuck in your ways, you're not willing to evolve and grow. And that's never been my personality. I have no problem stepping outside my comfort zone and trying to get better.
That's awesome. Sure. That's awesome. I got a quick question real quick. I think we've all been wondering, the Ngannou wrestling, was that like a mid-fight decision, or was the plan to always wrestle with Ngannou?
So the plan is always to get better in every skill set that we can. And, you know, when Francis came to the gym, you know, we talked about some of the things that maybe he wasn't good at, or maybe things that he wanted to work on. Or, you know, I basically said, what are you afraid of? You know, like he said, you know, always talked about his cardio and, you know, and his wrestling. And then we talked about, well, if you start focusing on these things, then your game's going to evolve out and be better in other areas. Meaning if we only worked on his striking, he's not really going to get a whole lot better. His striking's pretty damn good as it is. His power's already good. So let's start investing in the other areas that we can improve on and become better martial artists. And that was obviously his cardio and his wrestling. And that slowly became something that became one of his favorite things to do in the gym. So if you guys were to come to one of our practices, you would assume you would watch Francis Ngannou standing up, knocking dudes down, doing everything else. It's quite the opposite. Francis would come in here and he'd take dudes down, get on topside half guard, ground and pound, beat them up. You know, so during the pandemic, myself and Randy and Francis, we didn't have anything to do. We were stuck in a gym where, you know, there was no one in here. So all we did was come in and work on the wrestling and the ground game. And fortunately for us, you guys weren't really having to see any of that stuff in a lot of his fights. He was able to go in and knock people out. So this fight, you know, thankfully that we had that skill set that we had been building. And then when it came to fruition, we scored that takedown. We saw an obvious and clear path to victory if we can stay on that takedown. So yes, the wrestling has always been part of our game because we wanted to evolve and become better fighters. But once it presented itself and we saw that what Gon's response was to the get-ups and the ground game, we knew we were onto something. So we stuck to the ground game.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Well, that is what makes you such a great coach, what makes your camp so amazing and all of that. So we love it so much. Well, let's move on to the best of the best. And today, look, we have a coach on. We have to talk about coaches. Eric, where do you rank yourself among the top coaches in MMA today? And if you have a ranking, what would be your top 3 coaches right now?
I mean, I think that's tough to say. And you know, Henry Hooft has been a really close friend of mine as far as like a mentor. And Henry always talked to me about, you are the number one coach for your team, for your guys, for your people. We're the road warriors. We spend so much time. Our phones never turned off. It's 24/7. And, you know, we're always at the beckoning call of our fighters. So we are number one for each one of our camps and our teams and our fighters. Yes. So I think for me, it'd be tough for me to rank myself in that position. But I look at guys where, you know, Tyson Chartier, I look at his camp and what he does. So he has a small gym, a small group of guys, and they're very dependent on one another. When you see Calvin Kattar, you see Rob Font and vice versa. So those two really help one another. Then you got Tyson, and then you got their other guys there, Jake. that are really helping out that team. It's a small, tight-knit community. Then when you look at Henry Hooft and his gym, he's got a big super gym, right? So he's got a lot of great supporting coaches, supporting staff, guys that you can interchange any one of those coaches and you're not going to miss a beat. If Henry's here, Greg Jones might be here, or you got Coach Stout, or you got, Sean Soriano. You have all these great supporting coaches that can help. And then, I look at a guy like James Krause, who builds guys. James Krause has these guys who's had in the regional scenes, and he's brought them up through. Now they're in the UFC. So, I look at these coaches and the way they coach and their styles and what they've done and what they've accomplished. I think you can point out a lot of these guys. Eugene Bierman, man. I mean, there's so many great coaches in this sport that you can point to and find the good things that they do so great. And, Trevor Whitman, obviously, so, I mean, there's a lot of great guys, a lot of great coaches, but for me, I always try to look at what they're doing, how I can apply it to myself and as a coach, and how I can improve off of it.
I hear you. That's awesome. If I were to just give my top 3 right now, this is in no particular order though. Eric, you're definitely in the top 3, I would say. There's no doubt about it. I mean, everything we've seen leading up, all your fighters, they're evolving. They're not just getting a little bit better, they're evolving into better fighters. So, Eric, you're definitely in the top 3, but I would have to include maybe Mike Brown and Trevor Whitman. Trevor Whitman's doing great things down there.
Yeah, and Mike Brown's a guy that I forget about, not necessarily forget about, but he's got so many great fighters at his stable. And again, like you see these guys on the road, man, they're road warriors. They're constantly out getting work done. But moreover, you're seeing the results in the cage. Yeah, Mike Brown, definitely, man. I for some reason why he slipped my mind, but dude, that dude's a G.
It's because he's everywhere,
Yeah.
He coaches everyone.
Yeah. That's an amazing camp they have up there as well at American Top Team. But Eric, that's what makes you such a good coach is you adapt and base your coaching style off of a lot of other guys and everything. I love to hear that. That's phenomenal. For me, I would probably say, Hunter, I agree with your list so much, right? Eric, you have to be in there right now with all of the guys you're coaching and your camp. It's amazing. Mike Brown has to be in there. And of course, Trevor Whitman. However, a guy I want to shout out and someone I briefly got to meet at UFC 271. And Eric, you've mentioned him a couple of times is James Krause. I think his just perspective of he also is still a current fighter and coaching as well is so important. And what he's doing over there is just great things. He has a great connection, I feel like, with a lot of his fighters that a lot of coaches don't necessarily have, but he feels very close to all of his fighters and everything. So I think he's doing great things. And Eric, of course, you as well. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a better time for just MMA in general, but especially coaching in MMA. It's truly a great time we're living in right now.
And the great thing about that is the guys you're naming, for the most part, we're in contact every week.
Right.
And like I've called James numerous times on advice. And when you talk about like the behind the scenes things from coaches, we by nature should be competitors, but we're really not. There's a lot of camaraderie that goes on between us, and myself and Tyson Chartier. So Danny Gay, Calvin Cater fight, the fight's over. We exchange our notes to see what we did or how we game planned against one another because we wanted our fighters to become better and evolve. Right. So, I mean, it just shows you kind of the sense of camaraderie that we have. There's no egos involved. And yes, at the end of the day, we might be facing one another, but I want to face the best that I can. Right. I want to face the best James Krause. I want to face the best Tyson Chartier and those guys. So, I love the connection that we all have.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I never expected that. You guys are in contact. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of the MMA community, like just meeting people in person. Everybody's so nice. I love that so much. Well, let's move on to the pick of the night. And we have a good fight night main event. Bobby Green stepping in on 2 weeks notice out of nowhere to face Islam Makhachev. Eric, what is your prediction for this fight? And what do you think about the fight card as a whole?
Well, first of all, let's give props to Bobby Green. This guy's a G. No one's jumping up to take this fight. And I think if there's anyone that can disrupt some of that timing and it's Bobby Green, just with his stance switches, he's able to post cross and hit sides off with both stances. He's able to strike. But unfortunately for me, I just feel like the timing and the camp that you don't really have and the preparation time to go fight a guy like Islam is just a little too short for me. So I got to go with Islam Makhachev in this fight. I think he gets it done maybe round 2, round 3.
I can't disagree with that. Not in the slightest. How could I? I mean, we've seen in the past, Islam is a beast. I mean, he's been tearing through the division currently. Only lost on his UFC debut. He's a Dagestani wrestler. Is there more do I have to say from that? And Bobby Green on 2 weeks' notice. Maybe if he had more time, we'd be talking a little bit longer. But I can't see it. I mean, even those who have full training camps end up getting submitted or even knocked out in the first round by Islam. So I'm going to have to take Islam Makhachev, and I'll even give a round. I'm going to go round 1. Oh, wait, why is that, Jack? Jack, why did I pick Islam Makhachev? Because what the boss says.
Oh, there it is. You almost forgot it. You almost forgot it. We almost escaped that.
Oh, I'm not forgetting. You thought I forgot.
Of course. Not surprisingly, I agree with all of you. The fight that I look to for this is the Dan Hooker fight whenever he fought Islam Makhachev. That was also a short notice fight. And Dan Hooker is such a phenomenal athlete just on the feet and everything in general. And Makhachev is just, there are just levels to every asset of everybody's game. And his wrestling is some of the best we've seen in that division, right? Habib's protege, it shows. Again, all the credit in the world to Bobby Green. I think everyone is behind him and everybody's happy for him just to get this shot at this fight. And I hope he puts on a show. That being said, I agree with you. I think it just takes one takedown. Makhachev is a guy where it just takes one takedown, and I don't know if you can get back up. And it's also, this is the biggest test of Bobby Green's career. I would say the biggest highlight of his career is going to be on Saturday. The one thing I will say, and one thing that gets me excited though, is that Bobby Green's boxing is phenomenal. Yeah. And he does, I think, have a significant advantage in there. So if there is always that chance that Bobby Green can do something and put on a show, and he really has no pressure on him because no one's expecting him to do anything. So I'm looking forward to this fight very much. However, I do predict Islam Makhachev submission round 2, I'll probably say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
This is a win-win for Bobby Green.
Yeah.
This is a no-lose scenario for this guy. He can go in there and shock the world, and no one's, you know what I mean? Like, and if he loses, no one's going to blame him for going in there and doing his thing. So this is a win-win situation for him. So, I mean, more credit to him. And then, when you look at Islam and his style, man, he runs his routes on the ground. He gets a guy down, he smothers him. He takes his time. Then he begins to cook, and then his ground and pound begins to start to take place. And then he gets guys to roll belly down, or he gets them to expose the submission. Man, his pressure, his routes that he takes on the ground, I exactly agree with you guys, man. I think he's going to just take the guy down. It's going to be tough to get him off. And then at that point, where the routes run and what submission gets given up.
Yeah, that's how I see it going too. But of course, Bobby Green has a chance. I mean, a lot of the MMA community is not even giving him a chance right now. He's got a chance. Bobby Green's a fantastic striker. If he can somehow manage to keep this on the feet, then I would definitely, I would favor Bobby Green in this matchup. But of course, that's not how it works. So we've seen crazier things, cough, Julia Pena, Amanda Nunes, but I'm hoping I could be wrong tomorrow or Saturday night, because honestly, I would love to see Bobby Green in the top 5 of the lightweight division. How much fun would the press conferences be? That man is a talker.
Yeah. The big key thing for me is just this being in the apex, and I know that cage. It's so small. The real estate and the geography is tough to navigate through. And once you start getting your cutoffs correctly, and you're able to get a guy in those corner posts, it's very tough to get your angles and get off that cage. So that's what I see Islam doing, is just kind of moving forward and keeping that pressure and getting him into those trap doors, and then finding his takedown off the cage.
100%. I want to give Bobby credit, a lot of credit as well, for making weight. He made 160 of the catch weight. I know it's a catch weight and everything for 155, but fighting 2 weeks ago, and I think he said he was around like upper 190s after that fight. A lot of credit goes to that, to make weight, be on time, be ready to go. So yes, I agree with you guys. I think Islam gets it done, but credit to Bobby Green for sure. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone listening, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. As always, you can listen to us everywhere, literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at MMA.island and check out our website, MMAisland.net. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.